It is a great time to be a gamer. What's up guys, Andrew here on my channel GearedInc, where I get to share what I'm passionate about with you. And in my channel, that's PC tech, games, and gear. And before we get started, I have had so many events going on in my life, not to bore anybody, but I'm getting over the flu. You might still hear it in my voice. I've had a wedding, an anniversary, and a vacation all crammed into the last like 3 weeks. So that's why content's been a little bit sparse. This is a topic though I've been really wanting to get into since Computex gave us a lot to mull over. And so without further ado, let's get into some IPC. So what is IPC? IPC stands for instructions per cycle. And without getting too complicated on this whole topic, because I don't want to bore anybody, just understand this. Instructions per cycle is essentially the amount of instructions that your CPU can process every cycle that it has. Cycle is essentially denoted by the clock speed. So let's say you're at, let's say like you're 4.0 gigahertz on your CPU. Well, that denotes the speed of the clock, and then the IPC is essentially how many instructions can be processed within that clock. Why is this important? Well, it directly affects everything from editing, if you're doing like a video, to gaming in terms of how much frames are going to be able to render, because it's able to essentially assimilate more instructions per cycle. Now, we are getting into the IPC wars again, which is fantastic. It's good for all of us consumers. And we're going to start seeing some leapfrogging most likely from AMD and Intel that we haven't seen in quite a few years. Now, we know that AMD is claiming a 15% uptick on their new Zen architecture for their CPUs. We had a bunch of demonstrations showing exactly what this was able to do clock to clock against things that Intel currently has on the market with Coffee Lake, even though I did think that in terms of their Cinebench, when they compared the 9700K versus the basically the 3700X, I thought there was a little bit of a cop-out because the 3700X has 2 extra cores and threads. In fact, when you look at the actual performance increase in terms of percentage on the left-hand side of these slides that they have, you can see why they did that, because compared to a 9900K from Intel, it still gets beaten out. So right now we are seeing a basically edge-to-edge competition where at the highest end with maybe like the 3900X, there's a slight edge out on the IPC of what Intel has with Coffee Lake. However, we do know that Intel is going to be coming out with their 10 nanometer sometime this year, and it's going to supposedly have an 18% uplift over Skylake. So in order to determine exactly what this means in terms of performance, we have to kind of figure out, well, what exactly is over Skylake, which, I mean, the reason they did this is it's not an 18% uptick over Coffee Lake. Skylake is behind in terms of IPC, and to figure out exactly how much it's behind is a little difficult, but kind of averaging out some numbers that I've personally had when I had my Skylake CPU, and then also when I've looked at other kind of cross comparisons, we can average out maybe around a 10% IPC uplift from Skylake to Coffee Lake. Now, that's not universal. There are certain programs that take better advantage, which that's the toughest thing about nailing all this down. Certain games react better to better single core performance, obviously, and CPU speed. That's why Intel's been able to maintain such a heavy lead over AMD for the longest amount of time. Not just because their IPC was higher, but because the core speed of their CPUs was also higher. And hopefully with Zen 2, we're going to see that kind of shattered. But in terms of kind of determining what this is going to look like, if we can assume that at the high end right now, Zen 2 is sitting about 1 to 3% better IPC than Coffee Lake is, then we can extrapolate that if Skylake is 10% behind Coffee Lake, then maybe this 10 nanometer will be 7 to 8% total faster than what Coffee Lake has right now, meaning it would be about 5 to 6% faster than what Zen 2 is right now in terms of IPC. Now, all this means is that we're going to start to see this leapfrog action where basically AMD is going to take the lead for a second here, Intel's going to then overcome that, and then with the Zen Plus or Zen refresh of this new architecture coming out in 2020, we may see them retake the trophy. So it's a good time for all of this right now for us PC enthusiasts and gamers, because there's so much selection, and for the first time AMD and Intel are competing in a way that is just unprecedented. Although AMD I currently give the advantage to because you're getting more cores, more threads, less security issues, obviously with everything that's been going on the Intel side of things, motherboard support going into 2020, and PCI Gen 4, which is something to definitely consider, as it looks like it's actually going to make a difference if you're playing something like a video game with that increased memory bandwidth. So anyway guys, in terms of the IPC wars heating up, that's kind of my breakdown of what's going on right now. So the way you got to think about it is AMD is at par, but we'll have to see how long that is. And remember, they're not comparing 18% against Coffee Lake, which is what's currently available from Intel. They're comparing against Skylake, which is a few years ago, and basically the improvement from that will be 18%, which means that it may be like 7 to 8% over what currently is available from Intel right now. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this analysis and breakdown. It's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I've got a bunch of videos slated. I'm going to be showing everyone how to update their motherboard, especially if you're not planning on buying one of the new motherboards from AMD. You want to keep the one you have, which is, there's going to be a whole bunch of more motherboards that are going to be supported there. So I'm going to go over that in a video coming up. But as always, thanks to my Patreon and Twitch subscribers, guys. You make the channel happen in a big way. We do monthly wallpapers, so we have a whole reward system depending on how much you support me. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks to everyone who uses my Amazon affiliate link whenever you're buying anything through Amazon computer related. I've got 4 different countries that I'm in, so if you're buying a computer part through Amazon that you see me review, make sure to click my link down below, so that way it helps the channel directly as well. And as always, guys, thanks to everyone who continues to watch these videos, because I'm going to make them whether you watch them or not. But I hope you do, and I hope to see every single one of you next time here on GearedInc.